JD and Patrick, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much, Michael. Good to meet you.
I really enjoyed the series, guys. I wanted to open up with a question that would be interesting for my audience. Tolkien was obviously a devout Catholic. How do you see his faith influencing his stories, and how were those themes carried over into the series?
There's a great quote that we discovered where Tolkien talked about, he's always interested in writing something that is universal and timeless. He doesn't want it to be a one-to-one allegory. And he talked about how when he was writing the book, it was a Catholic work unconsciously because of his own faith, but then in revisions, consciously. And I think the way that we see that in the books and the way that we hopefully have translated over to the series is that, the themes are profoundly faith-based. I think, in terms of we're dealing with good and evil, we're dealing with the fall, fallibility of man, we're dealing with temptation, in Sauron we have a character that we very much see an analog with Milton's Satan. This is the tempter and the seducer and the deceiver, and he's pure evil, but he's complexly evil. And I think we've worked very hard to hopefully bring that to life in a way that honors those themes going back to the books.
JD, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think Patrick nailed it.
Great. Well, let me ask a follow-up question then that maybe JD you do have a thought on, what is the primary theme or primary themes of this series? And it's fine if you build on the last answer.
Sure. I mean, there's a couple of them. I think it because the series is so much about creation. We're in this time, and our first pitch for the show was we're going to take that sort of 5-minute prologue that we know so well from the movies of the creation of the 3 rings and the 7 rings and the 9 rings for the elves and dwarves and men, and see that creation done over many hours of serialized television. And so when you're dealing with creation at the core of your story, what it takes to bring creation into the world, becomes a theme that you deal with. And something that seems to bubble up again and again is that true creation requires sacrifice. Which also has, a sort of layered, you could look at it as there's a faith component in there also of the creation of the world, of the sacrifice that it took to redeem the world. And so the idea that different characters have to go through their own version of sacrifice in order to bring something new and different into the world, I think is a theme you see again and again. There's also things that deal with light and dark that you see sort of bubbling up again and again in an upcoming episode that you'll see soon that may air before. I'm not sure when you go to your audience, but Galadriel will be talking to a certain character who she'll be sort of having a reckoning, which much of the season is about sort of a reckoning for Galadriel, dealing with her own culpability for the events of season 1 and really empowering the Dark Lord. And as she's sort of saying, "I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough," to defeat Sauron. What she gets back is this thing that again becomes a theme that I think we're going to see throughout the series, which is maybe there was no one who was strong enough to defeat Sauron, but it is not strength that defeats darkness, but light. And yeah, so go ahead.
I like that. Patrick, do you have any thoughts on that before we move on?
No. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what is the target audience? This is a completely different question, but I'm asking this because so much of modern day fantasy is like Game of Thrones, is TVMA. It's not really for kids. What is the target audience for Rings of Power?
We're not interested in the might makes right. Everyone's being murdered all the time. Hard R. That's not this show. That'll never be this show. That's not Tolkien. Tolkien is for everyone. His themes are universal and timeless. And, we like the idea that a family could watch this show. It is going to be dark and scary at times, as the books are. And we're dealing in life and death. Characters die in this show. And it goes quite dark places, quite psychological places. But it's never going to do so in a way that's exploitative or that will be cheap or cynical. It is hopefully dark and high stakes and scary and even upsetting at times in a way that is earned and true to Tolkien's themes of, again, good and evil, and how do you save the world in the face of unrelenting darkness? And I think that makes for a show that maybe young kids, it's probably a little too scary for, in particular season 2, but certainly, I think 11, 12, it's right there appropriate for them in our estimation, although your mileage may vary, of course.
In my 20 seconds left here, but are all the seasons planned out in your head? I mean, do you have the story lined out for the next few seasons?
Very much so.
Yes.
First 2 stops on the train have gone according to plan. The third stop's next, but yeah, we've got a route planned. There's always surprises along the way, but so far so good.
JD and Patrick, thank you so much.
Of course.